My name's Yesenia, and I'm the illustrator on Honeysmoke, a book by Monique Fields, and today I'm drawing Simone. So I brought a pre-drawn sketch that I'll be painting today using a variety of things. So these are just some liquid watercolors that are like kind of dye-based that I really like using for their brightness. And usually I'll start off a piece by making a few like big washes of color. I guess like you'd call it wet and wet, technically, if you're going by like textbook watercolor terms. But it's just a process of applying water to the paper first and then adding your color in while the paper is still wet. And don't worry if this looks crazy right now. It'll look a lot better when it's dry, I promise. So Honeysmoke is a really important book to me since it's kind of my first ever book. And it's something that I actually got to do thanks to the internet. I had made a tweet with like a hashtag event called Drawing While Black. And unknowingly, maybe like I want to say a couple hours into that one tweet with like my hashtag Drawing While Black, my notifications were like on fire. It's definitely like something I never expected, me and my, like 200 followers that I had at the time. And through that, I actually got the attention of an editor that was actually looking for someone to do this book. So I guess putting yourself out there does work. I'm probably living proof of that, maybe. But it's definitely something that I really appreciate having the chance to do, since it's not something that I would have thought I'd get at this particular point in my career. Like I was always trying to like, find a way to shimmy on in to like, doing a book. But I had no clue that, it was just as easy as, well, you post something. So Honeysmoke is about this girl, Simone. She's a mixed race child that's trying to figure out like what color she is. She's not black, she's not white. And the book is pretty much about her trying to figure out what color like she could be. And in the end, she realizes that she's her own color. And that's something that's really important to me, since I am someone who probably doesn't fit your standard appearance for a Latino person. Being an Afro Latina, like I always get people really like shocked when they realize that like, yes, I speak Spanish, like when I call my mom and stuff like that. It's definitely like a little eye-opening to hear the most common reaction to it is, wow, you speak Spanish? Your English is so great! Which is a little odd to me. Like I'm not sure why that would be a thing. If, I was born here, obviously my English is great. It's the only language I've been talking aside from Spanish. They're like little micro-transgressions that, maybe they're not like offensive. Maybe they're coming from a place of ignorance, but I wish that I had less of it growing up. Because there were definitely a couple times where I was a little, confused by like, where I stood, like in terms of like what people saw me as. Like I'd even get people like saying, "Oh, hey, like are you adopted or by any chance?" Just because my mom isn't the same color as me. So I really wish that like there are more books like Honeysmoke coming out, like when I was growing up. Things like that probably would have helped a lot with like visibility on other races that don't exactly look like what you're expecting them to. So this is the main character, Simone, and one of the things that like characterizes her is her really, really big hair. Like this is probably not even a quarter of it from how I portrayed it in the book. Like I had met the author of the book shortly after finishing it, and one of the things she said to me was that when they had sent her the finished pages for the book, it looked like I had looked at every page and thought, do you know what this page needs? More hair. So I was like, yeah, you're right. Because that's kind of what I tend to do. Like I really like big hair. on like everything. I think it's something that, you know, there needs to be more of in the media too. Like sometimes when you have like big curly hair, it feels like you might be pressured to tone it down because it's so big and different. But I think, you know, big hair is beautiful. This probably looks like a really interesting, haphazardly tossed on color situation, but I swear, it's gonna look okay in the end, I swear, alright? So, I worked on Honeysmoke mostly digitally, using like Photoshop. So doing this watercolor stuff is definitely not something I get to do very often. But I really enjoyed doing it back in like my college days. Like just, you know, seeing colors appear on the page was always really exciting to me. And having that tactile feeling of being able to interact with the piece that you're making, which I don't think you can really get as much of, you know, digital media. And it's something that I do miss sometimes, like, you know, the thrill of, well, there's no Control Z, kinda only got one shot. But it's definitely something that like I like to come back to every now and then, since it is my favorite medium to use when I have the time, obviously. Like I remember going to like these online forums. I think it was wetcanvas.com or something like that. The one that I would frequent the most. It was like this forum site where a lot of older artists, mostly people who were retired and getting into painting for like the first time, they would frequent, and there were lots of tutorials that they would post that were super helpful when I was starting out. Like I think through that and just watching lots of videos on YouTube and just finding other random international forums really kind of gave me a love for this medium, since it is kind of tough when you're starting out. Like you never know what you're gonna end up with in the end, but I think that's what makes it exciting, honestly. So usually my approach to drawing, it's a little, I want to say, hopeful, because most times I'm kind of just, you know, hoping that this turns out okay. Since I've been working with watercolor for many years, it kind of, in a way, became intuitive for me, where I kind of understand what will happen if I put like one color next to the other. I know like I have this orange here. If I put a purple on top, that would work. At least if you're going for a more bright, warm tone color palette. Same thing with this yellow. Like if I want, I can put like an orange on top, and that would work. But since yellow is a very light tone color in general, and I wanted to deepen it, I'd have to use something like a pink. And this is just like the watercolor pencil that I was using earlier. My process is usually pretty haphazard. Even digitally, most times I'm kind of just putting color onto the canvas digitally or even traditionally, and, you know, just seeing if things work, experimenting, just try it out. Maybe it'll look okay, maybe not. That's probably the best explanation I can give for how my process works. I think a lot of the time in painting with watercolors is just spent waiting for the paper to dry. So if you're not the most patient person, it can seem like a really tough media to understand or even get a grasp of. Because so much of it is waiting for very like exact moments for you to be able to continue painting or continue working. Like with these watercolor pencils, I can't just like dive in immediately while the paper's still wet. I mean, I can, but it would give a different look in terms of like, you know, how that color would be added on to the paper. I usually prefer to do my outlines on anything in color. That's just me. Like even in my digital work, it's something that I just generally prefer, since I feel like it helps things harmonize a little better, instead of using just black outlines. I've just really enjoyed working with color all the time. My name is Yesenia, and this is Simone from Honeysmoke.